Welcome back, Wolfpack. Vrolos here to a VGC 2016 guide for Lugia. So that means GS Cup rules, legendaries allowed, but you only get 2. And let's talk about why you should bring Lugia and all the crazy breakdowns that it's going to encounter for a double battle scenario. So that's right, we got damage calculations, we have move breakdowns, we also have a look at it just, from typing, move sets, what it gets, all the move pool fun. So let's go and start off by looking at the way it's going to break down for a flying psychic typing. So a lot of weaknesses. That's kind of not good because Lugia wants to be a very tanky Pokemon, and that's also where it gets kind of complicated for using Lugia in a double battle. It's a very selfish tanky Pokemon because the stats are unbelievable on just pure defensive bulk. I mean, 106 on the hit points, 130 on defense, and 154 on the special defense means it's going to be very hard to knock you out. Lugia can even take a double focus, maybe a super effective hit mixed in there depending on what kind of attacks it's enduring, and it can eat up 2 hits in 1 turn and make something of it. Now we can translate what this means by looking at this. This isn't a moveset right here, this is just a small amount of what Lugia gets for status. I mean, you can see a mixture of support, you can see a mixture of setup, you can also see just a little bit of status overall like the Thunder Wave, but Lugia doesn't have anything hugely impactful as a tank. It can maybe set up a Tailwind and help out your team. It can be a bit selfish and go for those Calm Minds but leave itself vulnerable. Thunder Wave isn't too devastating, like Burning would be a lot better, but Lugia doesn't get the Scald. So it isn't an ultimate stall Pokemon, and in singles it can do that a little better, but in doubles it does have a lot more to worry about, but we do have the Roost, so we can sustain up quite a bit. Same here, this isn't really a moveset, but this is also showing that Lugia does get amazing coverage as well. Earth Power, that's actually usable in VGC. We will see quite a lot of fire setups because of the way that weather's going to work and seeing a lot of Primal Groudon. Also, Heatran's a very common Pokemon, Aegislash is a common Pokemon. We can make do with that. Thunder. Thunder's going to be good on rain, so you can put Lugia on a rain team, which will be something we'll talk about, or we can use Thunder as just, a little bit of damage against the Primal Kyogre. Same with Psyshock, we're a Psychic type Pokemon, we get the stab. We'll be able to hit as a physical attack on the Psyshock instead of a special attack, so Pokemon with high special defense like Primal Kyogre really won't be as bad against them. And then we also have Ice Beam. Ice Beam's just an amazing move in general. A lot of Dragon-type Pokemon, we got Salamence, we got Rayquaza, we also have Garchomp. Just a lot of Pokemon that don't want to be eating that Ice Beam. Same with a Landorus, Therian, or just any Landorus, and that's what the breakdown is. So, as you can see, a ton of defenses, but not really too much on the special attack. So, these attacks aren't going to be that powerful unless we go modest, but then we're sacrificing a bit of our defenses, and it does make things tricky. One thing that's really nice is we have a 110 base speed. So not only are we faster than our counterpart Ho-Oh, but we also have it to where we're faster than just a lot of legendary Pokemon in general. Most of them don't break that 100 speed because things start getting crazy. So we have Lugia as a mobile tank that doesn't do a lot of damage, that has some supportive things, like Tailwind does work as support, but it wants to be selfish with its defenses, but then that means it can't pump out a lot of damage to defend itself against 2 Pokemon in some cases. Now I don't want to use the term Jack of all trades, Master of none, even though it fits really well, it just also doesn't feel right at the same time, because while Lugia is good at doing a lot, it's not going to excel at most of those unless it's being supported just right, or if you're using it as a support. Also, Lugia does get some other cool things. You get the Safeguard. I don't think Safeguard works in too many situations, like Tailwind to Safeguard. Well, by then they've already laid down their status, and if you want to go for the speed, then that means you need to have a Timid Nature, or you need to run some kind of other set. So it's mostly going to be understanding if you want to run Lugia as a selfish setup Pokemon, or try to give it a little bit of setup and status. So let's go and look at Lugia from a selfish point of view, as I keep calling it. Calm Mind Roost. Well, this is going to be one of the most powerful ways of running Lugia, because if you get 2 Calm Minds set up, your opponent's not going to be doing any damage to you. That we can look at some damage calculations right here. So say we're going bold, 252 on the defense, 252 on the hit points against just a lot of physical attackers in the game. So Landorus Therian is going to be able to do a little bit of damage to us, that a Rock Slide will barely do a quarter of our health. That's a super effective Rock Slide from a Scarf Adamant Landorus Therian, and that just shows that when we're going with that full defensive investment, they don't really get to do too much damage to us. Same with pretty much anything. Primal Kyogre, we will see a lot of damage from the Origin Pulse and the Thunder. That's going to be a 2-hit KO, except with the Origin Pulse. Origin Pulse is going to have a chance to 2-hit KO after leftovers, but then we can also see something like the Water Spout. Water Spout is going to be more damage, and it's going to surpass the Thunder and the Rain, but that's without any special defensive investment. If we already have a Calm Mind set up, or we're able to buy ourselves a turn, Fake Out into that, maybe Light Screen Reflect, that way we have a couple of extra turns of absolute tankiness, that does work into our favor, and it shows, Lugia is a very, very difficult Pokemon to one-hit KO. almost impossible in a lot of situations because of just the way that it absorbs so much damage. And we can see right here, even Mega Rayquaza has a hard time 2-hit KOing it. 50% chance to 2-hit KO after leftovers, so it's not a guaranteed KO. We might as well just call it like, hey, you do have to watch out for that Mega Rayquaza 2-hit KO. It does show that Mega Rayquaza is going to have to beat on you for a while, and that does give your other Pokemon some opportunity to make some magic happen, while also making Mega Rayquaza much more frail if it is going for that. Also, we can maybe just kind of humor everyone that wants to see the Modest or some kind of Mega Rayquaza with the Draco Meteor. I mean, there's few things that are as powerful as a Mega Rayquaza Draco Meteor with that Modest Life Orb, and even then, we tank it up and we survive pretty well. Even if it's timid for the faster Rayquaza, I think we could actually survive 2 of those, because if we drop the special attack down in half, yeah, we get close to a survival on that, probably after the leftovers. Going to be pretty nice. So, I mean, our tankiness is just absolutely insane. Even against Mega Kangaskhan, could still see a lot of Mega Kangaskhan 3-hit KO on return or Sucker Punch, and if we're not, like, if they throw a Sucker Punch our way and we're Calm Minding, that's going to be pretty nice. So I think Lugia's strength is also going to be unpredictability. I don't even remember what this one was. Xerneas. The Xerneas matchup is something interesting we'll talk about. But yeah, when we look at Lugia, it's going to be an unpredictable Pokemon because if it's a support, it's not really posing much of a direct threat by itself. It's going to be more of a threat because that other Pokemon that you have is going to be gaining Tailwind. It's going to be gaining a lot of other kind of status things to help it out. I guess the trade-off just comes in the risk that if they don't focus you, that Calm Mind setup is going to be ridiculous because now you're getting very powerful Aeroblast, potential to Icy Wind. I mean, you Icy Wind them once or twice, and depending on how you want to run it, you know, you can maybe knock off some defense and go for some specific outspeeds on speed tiers against certain Pokemon. So that way, after a couple of Icy Winds, you're actually going to get some speed on your side, and now you might be able to outspeed with that Roost, outspeed with that Calm Mind, while putting out some really heavy attacks. I mean, if you look right here, I'm trying to remember which one was the Landorus one, no special attack investment bold, an Icy Wind in doubles is still going to have good amounts of damage onto the Landorus Therian, so if we have +1, well, it's actually going to 2-hit KO, even though it's more of a supportive move, and it is making it to where your allied Pokemon is going to be faster than them as well. So you can play like this kind of dual threat composition with the Lugia, but you do have to watch out for that because if they focus you down, well, now you didn't get Tailwind up, you didn't help your team in any ways, so you're just a tanky Pokemon that didn't disrupt at all, and that's very useless for a tanky Pokemon. Now, you can also play a bit of a hybrid Lugia. It's not going to have setup, I mean, you just Tailwind into damage. So, I mean, Tailwind mixed support is going to be alright. Now, you're not going to be as unbelievable as a tank, but as we saw earlier, you know, we are still a very tanky Pokemon. So, Modest with a 252 hit point investment, let's just go and wipe this around a bit. So, we take off the mold, or Bold, we put in Modest. I mean, Rock Slide, still going to be like a 4-hit KO after leftovers, and that's if we're running leftovers or not. Could put a Life Orb on this set, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But I mean, let's go and take a look at something like a Mega Rayquaza, because our special attacks aren't going to change, because we didn't have special defense anyways. But against the Mega Rayquaza, what if we're not bold? What if we don't have that investment right there? Well, we're still going to be able to survive hits pretty well. That's one interesting thing about Lugia, is that the way that stats work, in general, is that you need to go off of how effective they are. Then when we're looking at it, we start off with 150 on this defense, and then it goes up to 182. So we're not getting as much effectiveness as if we're going from 121 to 156. The percentage gain is going to be higher in a situation like this. Now, this does work for tanks in some situations because we're not losing a huge amount of tankiness in proportion to the amount of special attack we're gaining. So the way you're running Lugia like this is going to be for that Tailwind, because you're Tailwinding, well, now you have some damage pressure, and the Pokemon you're next to is also going to be putting out a lot of damage pressure as well. Now, I was thinking Primal Kyogre because you get to run the Modest Nature with this and get tons of damage on the Origin Pulse, and then Lugia gets to pick off whatever survives, and now your opponent has one Pokemon to hit back on your two fairly tanky Pokemon. I mean, Lugia, it's just a really balanced tank. Primal Kyogre is a huge special defense tank, and whatever survives, you know, you still have that Tailwind boost. It could make for an easy sweep from there, but if they focus down one of these Pokemon with Electric-type attacks, you could lose your Lugia or Kyogre and only have a Tailwind to show for it, and maybe a little bit of damage in the following turn. So it could backfire in that way, but also Lugia could get away with the Calm Mind, and then there's all sorts of other things. It does have the Roost opportunities. So I mean, here's where we start getting into some weird moveset situations, because on this Calm Mind set, yeah, we only get 2. On this set, we only get 3. If we want to put a Roost to be tankier in this one, then we only get 2 again. This is why I like the Citrus Berry, because there's going to be a lot of situations where they can 2-hit KO us with a leftovers, but the healing on Citrus Berry makes us a 3-hit KO. That's going to be a lot better for getting this amount of damage out before we go down, and that's just why we're going to be running the Citrus Berry. So there's also the Roost. I mean, if we Tailwind into Roost, we're going to be able to out-heal them before they get to damage us. Now, we can get rid of of the Thunder if we're not running Primal Kyogre. If we are, maybe get rid of the Earth Power. Aeroblast isn't going to be absurd for super effective hits because it is flying, but neutrally it's going to be amazing because 150 power after that stab is going to be really nice depending on how much damage we're putting out. So that's going to be like the idea behind the damage support on Lugia. Now, naturally, bringing Mega Rayquaza next to a Lugia sounds very, very powerful because, I mean, that's 2 legendary Pokemon on the field, and a lot of Lugia's weaknesses are going to be covered by that Delta Stream, so it's going to be very hard, if not impossible, to just one-shot both of these guys under any situation, and here's where Lugia could maybe bring the Safeguard. So it does put you in some weird situations. If they have a status Pokemon that isn't Prankster, you're able to like set up the Tailwind, have Mega Rayquaza protect, use that Safeguard, and then you're good to go. So maybe in this situation you have like Lumberry on a Lugia, and then give it some other really fun stuff like the Tailwind, Safeguard, and then 2 damage options. Since we won't be having the Rain on our side, having Thunder isn't that great, so like Aeroblast, and we haven't even talked about the Hydro Pump. I mean, Hydro Pump is still some really nice coverage if you want to bring it. Since you have the Delta Stream, you can trump other weather, so that could be really nice as well. The Hydro Pump will just be able to obliterate any kind of Primal Groudon team that they're going for, so the Aeroblast is still some good damage pressure. Hard to decide if you want to go like hit point special attack or if you want some like mixed bulk investment with some special attack on your side as well, because in this situation Lugia doesn't have as many super effective hits, so in theory it doesn't need to be as tanky to handle everything. But then at the same time, it's all about Mega Rayquaza being a star and then doing ridiculous amounts of damage fun for itself. So that could be something that just combos out really nicely, Tailwind, Safeguard. You could also maybe have Thunder Wave on your side of the field, make Lugia more of a dedicated support that's really, really hard to knock out, throw in the Roost and mix things around for Lugia like that, but it's just an option. Also, before I forget, I want to talk about Xerneas a bit, just on damage. So Xerneas, Geomancy, Modest, Thunder has a decent chance of knocking you out, but it's not a 100% chance, and it's actually less than 50%. So Xerneas gets the boost, and then you just have full hit point investment on the Lugia. That means you're at least going to be able to get some damage as your 2-hit KO, or they will have to double focus you with the Thunder. If Thunder misses, so I mean, 37.5% chance to OHKO on top of the 70% chance that the Thunder lands if they don't have Rain up. So you do alright with like being able to chip in a little bit of damage to Xerneas. This is where the Psy Shot comes in. This is where you just like disrupt and disturb, because they're going to have to throw some damage out on you, and then your other Pokemon can get some work done. So that's going to be the breakdown there. So I feel that this medium tankiness, medium damage kind of set is going to be really nice if you want to run them as a support, but you also have some other really good support options if you aren't running the Kyogre or you still want to bring Rain. Lugia's moveset pool goes very deep. I mean, we get access to the Hail, we have the Rain Dance, for some reason we even have Sandstorm, we get Bolt Beam coverage as we've already seen. I mean, the list just goes on of what Lugia can do. We get our own Psych Up if you're going to play a status game, and we also get a ton of move tier. I mean, we even get a Giga Drain. Giga Drain as an offensive move would be the craziest tech, but it only works against a couple of things. Like if they're running a Primal Kyogre next to like a Mega Swampert or any Pokemon that's going to be super affected by that Grass type move, then it could work, but you're also sacrificing a lot of coverage, but it could be a really crazy play. Giga Drain into that Calm Mind also has little bits of sustain. I mean, it just shows Lugia's coverage is crazy, and if you do want to run the Safeguard, you still can. Just a little bit of interesting stuff for Lugia. I don't see Whirlwind being as crazy in doubles, but Lugia gets it, and it just kind of expands upon what Lugia can pull out of its kit. Be like, oh, by the way, I'm running this set, and that could actually be what your opponent needs to lose, which could be pretty interesting. So now let's go and look at Substitute. Substitute Lugia. Very interesting, because I know people are going to be calling for it. A lot of people want to see me talk about this set. I'm not a huge fan of Substitute in general, and I feel it's harder in this season for double battles. Now, 2010, the last time we had GS Cup rules, Substitute Lugia was off the chain, and that's because people were running a faster form of Lugia. What you do is you give enough speed investment to outspeed. So let's go and look at a Pokemon like Kyogre. You know, say we had the timid nature. All we have to do is give it 512 points in a modest speed investment, and we're outspeeding 90 base speed Pokemon. Also, we can kind of bump those numbers around, so let's go and put in Landorus Therian. So if we have Landorus that's on the Therian form, that's going to push us up to the 157, so then we just bump up a couple more points into the Lugia. Now, really what this is going to do for us is it lets us outspeed and then throw up a Substitute. If they're trying to knock us out, they're trying to overwhelm us with damage, well, the Substitute works out really well. And if they're trying to focus our other Pokemon, well, we have a free bulk of hit points in that Substitute to work with, and then we can just go for the damage coverage from there. Ice Beam always good, Aeroblast is always good. I mean, we also have the Roost, so we can keep sustaining up as a pseudo-tanky Pokemon throwing out damage, or we run it the other way around, you know, put just a little bit of special attack attack to back up our Pokemon, and then we have a huge amount of hit point investment, which is going to make us still do good amounts of damage, tank up a lot of hits, hide behind that sub, throw down the roost, and it's going to be very solid overall. This could be leftovers. This gives us a lot of really neat options to run on Lugia. And the reason why I don't like it in this current set is because I feel there's too much power. If Lugia gets double focus, well, it's in a substitute, takes a hit, gets hit again, the substitute breaks, or it just takes enough damage to where the substitute kind of doesn't matter, and it's getting outsped by quite a lot. Because back in 2010, well, that was only 4th generation. We didn't have regular faster Pokemon. There's more Scarf options right now. There's a lot more sweepers. I feel that the speed tier of the game has risen just a bit, and it makes it to where if you're hiding behind a sub, you're just kind of going slow, not doing anything with your turn. So it does work if your opponent's going for Protect or something. If you predict your opponent's Protect, or if you predict their setup turn, yeah, you get a free substitute, and that's pretty radical. But if they see through that, well, then your substitute becomes a liability. It's kind of the same as this, but I see it as lower reward. Like, cool, you get a free substitute compared to cool, you get a free Calm Mind, which is more damage, more tankiness, more opportunities to really make it work, and that's on a tankier set. This is going to be kind of banking on that substitute, throwing out a little bit of damage, and then making it work. 2010, definitely a really cool set that could play with your opponents, but right now I feel the game has evolved and the Pokemon are much more volatile for Substitute to be that incredible on Lugia, and there's a lot of Prankster. You know, Prankster wasn't back there. You didn't have Prankster status that made it to where a Substitute would work. Now if there's a Prankster, it doesn't matter how fast you are, that sub isn't going to keep you safe from whatever status they're going to be throwing down, so that is a problem to be aware of. So yeah, there's like some speed things you can do with Lugia that become nice little bits of tech against certain Pokemon matchups, but overall there's just a lot of speed, so I feel that you either go all in with the offenses and Tailwind, or all in with the tankiness and understand you're going to be slower and try to support Lugia in that regard. Now let's go and look at the offensive breakdowns of your moves. So say we're running the Aeroblast, Thunder, Earth Power that we had on this set, which was the Tailwind and then 3 offensive moves. Again, we can maybe also throw in a Life Orb here if you want more damage depending on the Pokemon that you're next to. You can run like a double, you can either go double offensive, so put an offensive Pokemon next to it, or have another support next to it as well that can maybe cover for Lugia if it needs to, or throw out a medium level of damage. Then Lugia makes up for the damage needed with a Life Orb. But overall, I mean, this is one of your best options for super effective hits. So right here, 513 super effective hits. No matter what else you're going to put here, it's not going to have as many super effective hits. So if you just want the super coverage, this is going to be your best 3 with a Roost or a Tailwind, or if you're just going 3 offensive moves, this could be pretty nice. Calm Mind 3 offensive moves, I don't think it's that great because you do need the sustain if you're going to be taking a lot of hits, but then we can also look at other things. If we just want 2 moves, the Aeroblast and the Ice Beam is really nice, or the Aeroblast and the Icy Wind, which is why I had it on this set, and why I also talk about it in this set. So, Ice Beam, Aeroblast, I mean, you get your stab, that's high damage, you also get your common threat removal with that Ice Beam, and it does give you a really high amount of super effective hits, and while you could do better on the not very effective hits, this is just trying to cover for as much as possible, and then you can make up for the gap right there. Or you can also change up the moveset. Like I said, Lugia has a lot of really crazy tech options, so you could be a really broad Pokemon that can handle a lot of different things, or you can be this, like that one situation where Lugia has this off moveset and really just dominates the opponent because of it. That's kind of what it's going to be about. So that's pretty much going to be how to use Lugia in VGC 2016. It can pretty much mix with any Pokemon, and then the moveset has to change for it. Next to a support, go for that Calm Mind damage. Next to a sweeper Pokemon, yeah, you can be that bulky damage kind of setup Pokemon. You also have a couple of other things at your kit that you can use for yourself. I think that's pretty much it. Lugia mixes well with a lot of different Pokemon and a lot of different strategies, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a lead either, that it can salvage a game pretty nicely from just being ridiculously bulky and a safe switch in as long as it's not getting hit or threatened by super effective hits. So if you guys enjoyed the video, that's how you use Lugia, and I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.